The Jaguars have some huge expectations coming off of what was an insanely lackluster and disappointing 2021 year, Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. The expectations were through the roof for Urban Meyer, for Trevor Lawrence, but unfortunately they fell straight on their face like the drunk girl leaving the bar after way too many vodka cranberries, right? So obviously, they're in the Uber now. They're going home. They have Doug Pederson. They're recovering. I think they've recovered at this point, and they're ready to go actually see what the world's like and have a lot of success in this 2022 season, in this brand new Jaguar season. So I think it's about time we set some new expectations for what this Jaguars offense should look like going forward. And obviously, anytime you're talking about expectations and you're talking about the Jaguars offense, you have to start with the prodigy, the golden child, the franchise, Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence, he cannot have a repeat of last year. 3,600 yards, not going to cut it. 12 touchdowns, not going to cut it. 17 interceptions. Okay, if he throws for 35 touchdowns and 4,500 yards. But when you have 3,600 yards and 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions does not cut it. And he can't have really anything close to anything like those three numbers. I'm not trying to say that Trevor needs 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. But with the offensive additions of, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and then obviously the returning Travis Etienne, who we have yet to see play a real game for the Jaguars, I think he easily needs to clear 4,000 yards. I think he pretty easily will clear 20 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to get up in 28, 29, 30, but I do think he's going to be in that 25 range. And then if he hovers his interceptions around 10 to 13, I think that's considered a massive win for the Jaguars and for Jaguars fans moving forward. With the emphasis on his wide receiver who's actually catching the ball, which, Sanjay Lal just kind of, I feel like, forgot that was an important thing for wide receivers to do after, they had 38 drops in 2021. Cannot happen again. And I do think this group should look remarkably better and finally shut up the naysayers that are surrounding Trevor Lawrence. And they've really closed in on him. They've really honed in on him since his drafting. And 2021 did nothing to shut them up. I do believe 2022 is the year that Trevor Lawrence just takes that sock and just shoves it right down their mouth like, Mick Foley with Mr. Socko. Just, That's a wrestling throwback for you. If you're a wrestling fan, you get that reference. If you don't watch wrestling, you think I'm a wacko talking about socks and mouths. But on to the running backs. Travis Etienne is someone that has the NFL world buzzing with hopes and expectations. He's the ACC all-time leading rusher, and he's going to be the bell cow for this Jaguars offense through probably the majority of the season. Now coming out of college, he did have that 2,000 all-purpose yards season, and he did average about 7 yards a carry while in Clemson. Now, despite some teams having weaker run defenses, obviously it's stupid to think that he's going to have 7 yards a carry in the National Football League. He doesn't have Wake Forest to beat up on. These are National Football League teams that he's going to be facing. So if he can hover around 4.5 to 4.8 yards a carry and maybe average 7 yards a catch, 8 yards a catch, I think things are really going to be rolling well for this Jaguars offense. I think there's a lot of optimism surrounding his pass catching ability. For Etienne, I'm expecting probably 1,500 all-purpose for him, probably 1,000 rushing. Yes, that's being optimistic, but at the same time, 500 receiving, and then probably 10 to 12 total touchdowns for him, probably like 8 to 10 rushing, and then maybe 3 to 4 receiving. I do think that 3 to 4 kind of is being optimistic, but at the same time, if they really get this offense humming and they find a lot of unique ways to use Travis Etienne, I do think he can reach that 4 receiving number. Now, James Robinson is someone, while yes, he's going to be making his return some point in the year, yes, he's still been an incredible running asset for the Jaguars, averaging about 4.5 yards a carry. He's just going to be a rotation piece. He's going to be coming off the Achilles. I don't think with the weapons they have in that room, I don't think there's a need to rush him back, and I don't think they're going to rush him back. Now, I do think he's going to be able to probably get to around that 500-yard mark, maybe a handful of touchdowns. This isn't a year I'm expecting a lot out of James Robinson at all, and if he hits 500 yards, I think it's a very successful year for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars, if he does kind of hit that number, start to look to shop him a little bit out on the market. Now, Snoop Connor's the oddball of this room. He plays like James Robinson. He has the body style of James Robinson. And it seems apparent that once James Robinson comes back, Snoop Connor's touches are going to absolutely disappear. But could I see, Snoop Connor probably getting like 60 carries throughout the season, maybe 275 yards, 3 touchdowns? Yes. But do I think he can get higher than that? Yes. But I think it would take a massive just flight change. You were on a plane going to Houston, and next thing you know, you're on a plane going to London. Kind of change in what the game plan looks like they're going to have for this offense, because Snoop Connor just looks to be like a quality asset. The Dare Ogunbowale kind of running back for this offense. I don't think he's going to get a lot of work, but I do think he's going to try to make the most of the touches he gets, like 50, 60 touches maybe throughout the year. Now, on to the wide receivers. When you talk about the wide receivers, you have to start with Christian Kirk. He's paid number one money, and a lot of people are expecting him to play on the outside. I do think they're going to play him on the outside for that first little bit of the season, but he's going to have the majority of his success in the slot. Kirk had his best year in 2021, and he played almost 75% of his snaps coming from the slot. Christian Kirk is a slot wide receiver. He is. There's no if and buts about it. If the Jaguars do try to force, square block into circle hole and make Kirk an outside guy, I expect him to probably catch 60 balls for, 700 yards, maybe 5 touchdowns. That's not going to be bad, but when you're looking at what you're paying him, that's bad. You can't have a guy that's averaging $18 million a year and have him 700 yards, 60 catches. That you can't have that. Now, if they play him from the slot primarily, if he gets that 75-80% from the slot number like he had in his last year in Arizona, I can see him, 80, 85 catches, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I can see him being insanely productive if they have him coming out of the slot where he makes his money. If you game plan around Christian Kirk in the slot, I think you're going to have a huge return on your money there. But I don't think the Jaguars are going to do that, at least to start the season. Now, Zay Jones is someone I love. I've gushed about him. I made a video specifically explaining why Zay Jones is going to be a huge impact for this team. But I do think he's going to be a very good role player. And, if he has 45 catches, 500 yards, 3 to 6 touchdowns, I do think a lot of Jaguar fans would be incredibly happy with that performance. And they would be, they would feel very happy about having him as the third option on this team. Maybe even the second option ahead of Marvin Jones. Now, speaking of Marvin Jones, if Marvin Jones can get close to what he had in 2021, I think he's going to be in an incredibly good position going into his next round of free agency. For him, 65 catches, 750 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns is right where you want Marvin Jones to be. Despite these new weapons being added, I really don't see a huge role for Marvin Jones in this offense. I do think he's probably going to be one of the 2 outside guys for this team. I do think it's going to be Zay Jones and Marvin Jones on the outside, Christian Kirk on the in the interior and in the slot. I do think that's where they're going to have their most success, but who knows what this offense is going to look like come September, come early August, and everything. Now, Laviska Shenault, he's everyone's favorite pass catcher, right? No. He led this team in drops. He on a team that led the league in drops. If he can fix his god-awful drop issue, then I'm sure he can repeat what his rookie year looked like, and he can kind of rebuild that optimism that Jaguar fans had for him following his rookie year. Just about 60 catches, 600 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If he gets away from that double-digit drop number, I'm saying if he drops to like 2 to 3 drops, okay, that's what he had in his rookie year. He had a handful of drops his rookie year. If he can just get to that, and then build off from that, I think the Jaguars are in an incredible spot with those 4 as their starting 4 wide receivers going forward. Now, the tight ends. Evan Ingram, he's brought in on a 1-year prove-it deal, 1 year, $9 million. And it's really weird with Evan Ingram because he's incredibly consistent. If you look at his stat sheet and you kind of look at his totality of his play, he's really just kind of been a 60-catch, 550-yard guy. Very, very consistent. And honestly, that would be, if he puts up 2-3 years of that, there's a good possibility he becomes the greatest Jaguar tight end of all time. I'm sorry, Mercedes, but that would be incredibly productive from a Jaguars tight end to catch 60 for 550, maybe even flirt with 650, possibly 700 yards. That would be insanely productive for a Jaguars tight end. Would probably flirt with the best all-time season for a tight end. But just like Viska has the drop problem, Evan Ingram has the drop problem. He's averaging just about 6 a year, and that cannot happen. Now, hopefully with Trevor Lawrence dropping just beautiful dimes right into his hands, that really kind of does make a big impact on Evan Ingram's drop issue. Ultimately, he played with an old Eli Manning, I believe. Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. There's a good argument to make that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback that Evan Ingram has played with in his NFL career. So hopefully all of these little things compounding really do make a big impact on what to expect out of Evan Ingram. Now, Dan Arnold, if he's your number one tight end, you could upgrade that spot. That's why the Jaguars did. But if Dan Arnold's your number two tight end, you have an incredible number two tight end. Now, Arnold offers a lot when the team is in two tight end sets. You're looking at maybe that team's best coverage linebacker, maybe that strong safety covering Evan Ingram. Now you have that linebacker on Dan Arnold, who is an incredibly consistent pass catcher. I believe whenever he's targeted, he has an above 90 quarterback rating. But he's someone that I can really see having a good step up in his production. And if he ends the year with 45 catches, 450 yards, 3-4 touchdowns, I really do see Dan Arnold being a very nice contributing piece to this Jaguars offense as a whole. He's going to be a role player. He's not going to be anything great. But if you look at him as just a very nice little cog in this machine to keep it nice and oiled up, I think it's going to be an incredible piece for this offense. Now, to the offensive line, everyone's favorite thing, because there's a possibility for 80% of this offensive line to have new pieces in it. Cam Robinson going into his sixth year, and he's quickly becoming one of the longest tenured Jaguars on this roster, which I feel like I blinked, and Cam Robinson has quickly become. I feel like I remember like it was yesterday. I was sitting back in 2018 during, his second year, but Cam Robinson is continuing to build off of the success he's had, and I believe it's 3 years in a row. He's had his pressures drop, he's had his hurries drop, and he's had his quarterback hits drop. Now, playing in front of Trevor Lawrence, again, should only continue that success that he's had in the previous years. In 2021, Robinson had 31 pressures and 27 hurries. That's 9 less pressures than he had in 2021, or in 2020, and then that's 7 less hurries that he had in 2020. So playing in front of a better quarterback, a quarterback that knows how to move around in the pocket, has absolutely helped him. And I do think that another year of comfortability with Trevor Lawrence, knowing how he moves, learning how he operates the pocket, is only going to help him even more. If he can hover around that 27, 28 pressure, drop that number just a little bit more. And I think if you can get the hurries below 20, that'd be a drop of 3 or more in the hurries category. It'd be a drop of 3 or more for both, honestly. I think he'd be in a really good spot, and he would really kind of start to be emerging as that top 12 offensive tackle in the league, which he's slowly becoming. I want to pump the brakes on that statement. Slowly becoming. I'm not saying he's going to be Trent Williams by year 9. That's not what I'm saying at all. So I want to pump the brakes. Slowly becoming a top 12 tackle in the league. Now, Ben Bartch is someone. It's one of the two really open spots on this offensive line, in my opinion. It's left guard and right tackle are the two spots that are really open, and I think Ben Bartch I think he's really going to try to mimic that success he had at right guard, where he had 24 pressures and 16 hurries. And even if he kind of mimics that production level, I think that expectation level is perfect for him. He's a developing player. He came out of a school where he was not used to the NFL level of play, but now that he's starting to get used to it, I absolutely think if he repeats what he did in 2021, it's a great year for Ben Bartch. Now, and you probably noticed I did not include the center position in two positions that I think are open for competition. Luke Fortner is the center in my eyes. He is. Tyler Shalley's an incredible backup, but he's a backup. With the retiring of center Brandon Linder, it left a gap at the spot, and in the third round, the Jaguars filled that gap with Luke Fortner. Fortner graded out as one of the best centers in college football during his super senior year at Kentucky, according to Pro Football Focus. Fortner was credited with 26 knockdowns during his senior year at Kentucky, and he was one of the best Wildcat players on that offense. And he's also an incredibly durable player. He's 36 consecutive games started, and when you're looking at what Brandon Linder lacked, it was that durability. So if you can get that durability from Fortner and you can kind of develop him into a player that's going to be like Linder, huge things are coming. But if Fortner can kind of hover around that 10 to 12 pressures, Jaguar fans are going to be happy. They're going to want to see him back in that position. And the best thing, honestly, for a center is to not have his name called, not to notice he's there, And I do think that's what Luke Fortner is going to be for the Jaguars going forward. Now, Brandon Scherff was brought in to be the set and forget right guard. Just like that center position, you don't want to hear their name called unless they're doing something good. That is what Brandon Scherff is. He's truly one of the best guards in the National Football League. And if he can stay healthy, that's the big thing with Brandon Scherff. If he can stay healthy, he's a front runner for the All-Pro every year. I believe he's like a 3-time All-Pro, a 5-time Pro Bowler, super productive right guard. And he's someone that protects the quarterback like his life is depending on it. And he's someone that just consistently keeps that pressure and hurry number under 20. And I can't say anything more about him. That's what the expectations are for him, because that's what he has set them at, is that under 20, I'm going to keep the quarterback clean. And if he doesn't, we're talking about him like he's Andrew Norwell, where he came in, played well, but he wasn't what we thought we were getting with the money we were paying him. Now, this is the one spot that I really see a ton of competition at, and it's the right tackle spot. It is definitely a two-dog race for this right tackle spot, but I have Walker Little winning that spot. He was a standout for the Stanford Cardinal at the left tackle position, earned all Pac-12 first-team honors, and then also was a preseason All-American in 2019. Insanely talented tackle. Now, if he hadn't gotten hurt, if he hadn't set out the COVID year, we're talking about one of the best tackles in his draft class. But unfortunately, falls to the second round. Thankful for the Jaguars for snagging him when they did. And in 2021, Little played 139 pass blocking snaps. And in those pass blocking snaps, only allowed 3 quarterback hurries. So you can't you can't knock that. And, despite that incredibly small sample size we saw of him, that he got in the Patriots game, he showed he was an incredibly valuable target, or incredibly valuable player, I should say, and someone that can potentially bring that success he had at the left tackle spot right into the right tackle spot. On top of all this, he had 225 live snaps and was not penalized a single time. What is one of the biggest things that Jawan Taylor gets knocked for? That just consistent, oh, dang it, there's another false start. Oh, there's another hold. There's another illegal hands to the face. Oh, that killed a first down. Oh, that killed a 30-yard gain because Jawan Taylor stuck his hand in the guy's face mask. Whatever stupid little penalty Jawan Taylor had. According to this, Walker Little does not have that issue. 225 live snaps, was not penalized a single time. So, ultimately, if you can have 30 pressures out of, Walker Little in 2022, I'm okay with it. He's learning the right side, and I do think he's an absolute upgrade from Jawan Taylor. Now, let me know down below what you guys think. Who do you guys have the most expectations for? Who do you guys have the least amount of expectations for? I'd love to have those talks with you guys down below in the comment section, so be sure to drop them below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, and go Jaguars.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you! You're making blood come from my damn mouth!
Duval!